Stuck in a rut with Jerry while secretly crushing on my friend Carl, I ponder, I don't want to ruin my daughter's bond with him. Meanwhile, Jerry thinks everything's perfect, despite my growing unhappiness. Can love really thrive in a sea of unmet needs? This requires a lot of background information. We will call my boyfriend Jerry, 26 years old male. Our mutual friend is named Carl, 33 years old male. The father of my child, 34 years old male, will be Robert. My daughter, nearly 4 years old, will be Sophia. This is very lengthy, so a summary is provided here. Summary: Jerry and I got together too quickly after I left the abusive Robert. We have now been together for 3.5 years. Robert has changed and is a great co-parent but now works out of town. I have no childcare except for Jerry and Jerry's mother. I work unusual hours, earn significantly more money, and I am responsible for supporting our entire life, and I am struggling. The only thing Jerry excels at is loving Sophia, though he is quick to anger while parenting. I overlooked every red flag because being non-abusive was my only standard. Now his personality seems to have diminished entirely. It has been that way for a year. I have repeatedly asked him how I can help if he is depressed, etc., and I am met with silence. His personality resembles a brick wall, and he contributes in no significant way except 30% of the income and being a decent stepfather. I have been friends with Carl for 4 years and have recently developed feelings for him. I do not genuinely foresee our relationship progressing even if I were single, but it has made me realize I deserve more than just the absence of abuse. I deserve to have effort put forth on my behalf. However, I feel stuck and unsure how to navigate from this point. The real story begins now. I have always been involved with older men, for better or worse, since the age of 17. Jerry is the first person I have been with who is my own age. My relationship with Robert was highly emotionally manipulative, primarily due to his drug use. I was 21 years old and became pregnant very quickly into our relationship. I was naive and unaware of how serious the situation was until I was a few months pregnant. I basically left as soon as I recovered from my cesarean section. If I had not gotten pregnant, I do not believe we would have lasted more than a brief fling. Robert and I despised each other for about a year, which made co-parenting very challenging, but around the time Sophia was about a year and a half old, things started to improve. Now we are great friends. He has been sober for 2 years and is an actively loving father. We currently share custody 50-50. I began talking to Jerry very soon after leaving Robert. He was my coworker, and I had known him for about a year at that point, but he had never flirted with me or crossed boundaries while I was with Robert. We became closer friends after I returned from maternity leave, and a mutual friend informed me that he was in love with me and suggested I communicate my expectations for our relationship. I called Jerry out to sit in my car with me after work, and I was very candid and direct. Paraphrasing here, this is essentially what I communicated to him. I know you have feelings for me, and I also sense something for you. However, I need you to understand that my life is chaotic right now. I am a new mother. Sophia is 4 months old. I am a new single mother responsible for everything financially. I returned to work 3 weeks after giving birth to support us. Robert dislikes me and I will likely have to take him to court. I genuinely do not believe I need to be in a relationship right now. We can remain strictly friends, we can see where this goes, or we can cut off all ties and remain coworkers. It's your choice. Jerry expressed that he would love to see where things led. I was astonished because I thought he should be running in the opposite direction. It was hard to believe that someone wanted me. I thought I would never find love again after becoming a single mother at a young age before I could achieve any of my dreams. Foolishly, we continued to talk, and by the time my daughter was 7 months old, we were officially a couple. Robert disapproved of this and consistently attempted to create issues, but we persevered. Regarding Jerry's background, he was 23, living with his mother, who had not worked since he was a child, along with 4 roommates. Their home was dirty and their pets were neglected. He did not possess a driver's license, despite living in an area that was entirely unwalkable. He had not had a girlfriend since breaking up with his first love at age 18. In hindsight, these are all red flags, but I perceived him as a sweet, lovable, misunderstood individual held back by his family. While that is still the case, he showed no desire to change his situation until we became a couple. I found myself in an emotional, vulnerable state after enduring an extremely traumatic year and a half with Robert, including a deeply traumatic birth and postpartum experience. However, I was doing quite well taking care of both myself and Sophia, and I felt accomplished in that respect. Jerry was willing to wait for me. He catered to my needs and never argued. He agreed with everything I said. He loved Sophia from the moment he met her. We went on dates, attended concerts, and engaged in many enjoyable activities, both with Sophia and without her when Robert had her. We moved in together within less than a year. Everything continued positively. I was so amazed that someone never argued with me, was not controlling, allowed me to spend time with my friends whenever I wished, and wanted to be an involved part of my daughter's life. I did have to teach him how to drive, show him how to put bills in his name, and teach him various aspects of adulting, but he was managing fine. Now let us introduce Carl into the equation. Carl used to be both mine and Jerry's boss. On the first day I started my job years before the current situation, prior to my pregnancy, there was an instant connection between Carl and me. I mean instant. We shared interests, enjoyed similar music, and had the same sense of humor. I looked forward to shifts with him because we laughed so hard we cried every time, but that was all it was. Carl was also good friends with Jerry, although company policy prohibited us from socializing with a boss outside of work hours. Fast forward about a year and a half after Jerry and I moved in together. I am now on good terms with Robert. He is sober and we get along. I never thought Robert and Jerry would become friends, but they did. Jerry is now like a second dad to my daughter. She loves him dearly and does not remember a time before him. We have been together for approximately 2.5 years at this point. Jerry's work performance deteriorates significantly. He becomes one of the poorest employees. Everyone begins asking me what is wrong. I have no answers. I try to discuss his issues with him daily, wondering if it is depression or if I have done something to upset him, but I always get nowhere. I suggest several times that this life of paying bills and being a parent may not have been what he anticipated since he entered adulthood later. I said he might not have needed this to be his first experience being independent. I had been living alone with Sophia for a year before she was born and was on my own from the age of 19. I mentioned that he might need a chance to experience his early 20s and live differently before committing to all of this. He insisted vehemently that this was not the issue and I quote, "I would never ever leave you no matter what you did." Looking back, that in itself is a red flag. By this time, Carl has left our job for another position, but we have remained friends throughout. We have spent time with him outside of work multiple times since he is no longer our boss. We are part of a group chat together. We communicate in it for months. Eventually, Jerry stops answering. He still reads all the messages, but it becomes just me and Carl discussing things. Eventually, we begin texting privately. Jerry is aware of this, but he knows it is nothing suspicious and is fine with it. Jerry eventually leaves his job with me and starts working at Carl's new company. They are allowed to be friends there, so nothing about our collective friendship changes. Jerry continues to avoid the group chat. He and Carl remain friends but only converse at work since Jerry has ceased communication with anyone outside of work. However, Carl and I text constantly. It is genuinely nothing more at this point. We merely discuss music, television shows, work, and life. As time goes on, Jerry's work ethic declines, and after switching jobs, taking a pay cut, mind you, everything seems to change. Sophia is now in her terrible twos and becomes very challenging to parent. Jerry transitions from a loving, doting stepfather to someone who is constantly annoyed by her. Yes, children can be irritating, especially at this age, but he is continually irritated with her. I stop being the one to organize dates and outings, so we cease going on them. He stops helping with household chores, shows no desire to do anything together, and if I do not take the initiative, nothing gets accomplished. We become intimate less often, and the only effort he makes to initiate private time is half-hearted. Grabbing my entire body in the middle of the night while I attempt to sleep or pushing against me in the morning when I have only an hour before work. During ideal times, he is distant and wants nothing to do with me, choosing instead to spend time on his computer without engaging in conversation. During this period, I am conversing with Carl more frequently. I believe this is around the time I begin to develop feelings for Carl, but I remain in denial. We have never crossed a line or flirted, we simply talked about everything. Jerry and I experience a few decent months. Although it does not feel like it used to, I think I am too busy and preoccupied with life to dwell on our issues. I go through life on autopilot. We go on a few trips and have fun, but the spark does not return. It feels like traveling with a platonic best friend. He still does not improve in any areas where he is lacking in daily life. We have a small Christmas gathering with friends on Christmas Eve since Sophia is at Robert's house until Christmas morning. Jerry barely looks at me the entire time, which is acceptable because I hardly look at him either. We actively engage with all our friends, having a great time with everyone. We play a board game together. During turns, Carl and I engage in deep conversations about life. Alcohol prompts us to become slightly emotional as we discuss our experiences. Jerry is oblivious, chatting with other friends. When it is Carl's turn, we realize only after 2 full minutes that it is his turn. I finally comprehend how close I am to his face, how intensely he is looking directly into my eyes, and how profound our conversation has become. I look around at the group, feel my cheeks redden, and notice everyone staring at us. I make eye contact with a friend who appears to give me a knowing look. Carl apologizes, saying, sorry, we were trauma dumping. Everyone laughs, including Jerry. Jerry seems to disregard it entirely. For me, however, I believe this is the moment I realize I have feelings for Carl. Thankfully, no one in the room brings that moment up again. I try to suppress and ignore my feelings. We continue to text as usual, but nothing particularly significant occurs, and he remains friends with Jerry, with whom he talks every day at work. We go through phases of not communicating for several weeks, then one of us will have something to discuss and we resume our conversations. It remains as it always has been, nothing more. This continues for months. One day, a group of work friends plans to go out to the bar. It is the weekend, so Sophia is with Robert. I call Jerry and ask if he wants to join, but he claims he is tired and would prefer to go home and play video games, allowing me to go if I wish. This is not unusual. He knows all my work friends, and it is a diverse mix of both men and women, and we often hang out together, so there is nothing to distrust. When I arrive, Carl is there. It is the first time he has seen most of the group besides me since he switched jobs about a year ago. Everyone is thrilled to see him. A group of about 7 of us ends up sitting in a parking lot in a circle like children, talking until 5 a.m. after the bars are closed. When I go to give a friend a ride home at the end of the night morning, she has known Carl since childhood. As we get into the car, she says, "Babe, I see the sparkle in your eye when you look at my friend. I am 99% sure it is mutual too. I do not know what you will do about that, but hey, I just wanted to let you know." Carl and I barely communicate the week after this incident. The following week, Robert informs me he has received an outstanding job opportunity but will be working out of town half the year. I encourage him to go, and I will figure out childcare. I primarily work evenings and weekends, I earn great money, and obtaining a daytime job during daycare hours would most certainly result in a pay cut. So Jerry offers to adjust his work schedule for some days, and his mother offers assistance for the remaining days. My family and Robert's family are essentially non-existent, so they are not an option. It has been about 6 months since these changes occurred. My relationship with Jerry has absolutely plummeted. I suppose it is the stress of 24/7 parenting, but all the issues I previously had with him have multiplied exponentially. Throughout all of this, over a year into our 3-year relationship, he has never acknowledged or admitted to experiencing depression, anxiety, or any mental health issues, nor has he recognized anything I have done wrong or how I could help or change things. I make an effort to discuss everything at least 2 or 3 times a month, but every conversation leaves me feeling as if I am speaking to a wall. I receive no responses other than "I don't know," or he cries and tells me how terrible he feels and how I deserve so much better and that I should hate him. It has been the worst pity party I have ever encountered. Nothing ever changes, improves, or gets resolved. I continuously ask multiple times if he has an issue with me in any way. He says no, that I am perfect and can do no wrong. At this point, that feels unsettling to me. Of course, I can do things wrong. I likely do all the time, so talk to me. It has become incredibly frustrating. Without Robert present, I genuinely never get a break, and I am struggling. I recognize that I was incredibly privileged and fortunate in some respects to have ever had respite while sharing custody with Robert. I am aware of that. Nevertheless, I am struggling now. I work more hours than Jerry, and my hours are longer, and I earn literally twice as much money. Additionally, I have a second job coaching high school softball and am extraordinarily busy with that. I am the sole person responsible for cleaning my home, purchasing groceries, and running errands. Most of the bills are in my name, and I am the only individual making appointments and scheduling events to keep our lives running smoothly. At this point, I have no one else to assist me with childcare. I am a bartender and earn between $25 to $50 an hour in tips, and I am also re-enrolling in college online for the upcoming fall semester. I cannot afford to earn just $15 to $17 an hour, which is what I would receive from a day job without a degree, plus paying for childcare and covering 70% of our bills in our very expensive living area. If we were to break up, I would be responsible for all the bills. Rent is on the cheaper end for my area, which would make it extremely challenging to reduce costs. I could move back home with my family, but they live an hour away and do not have room for me. I cannot qualify for assisted housing even after switching jobs because it is based on last year's income, and I earn too much as a bartender. Do people live in my area as single parents on lower salaries? Absolutely. However, this is the income I have been making for 5 years, and I have never earned less than this since having a child. I would not even know where to start on decreasing bills and altering my entire lifestyle. I might be able to ask Robert for financial assistance, but he already pays child support, and I would genuinely feel uncomfortable asking for help with anything other than daycare costs. Furthermore, I am severely regretting entering a relationship so swiftly when I had a literal newborn baby. Now that Sophia loves Jerry so much, despite his constant irritation with her, it breaks my heart. She merely wants him to play with her all the time, and that hurts. I feel this situation is honestly more complicated than if he were her biological father. Robert and I have healed, figured out how to co-parent, and become friends. If Jerry and I were to break up, he would not be legally entitled to shared custody or anything. If I were to enter another relationship after this, I would not allow them to meet my child for at least a year, and I would not move in with anyone until at least 2 or 3 years had passed. But I digress. You learn as you go. There is also the point that I feel guilty for relying on Jerry and his mother for childcare. Yes, they love her as if she were their own, but it would feel terrible if I left and simply said, "Thank you for everything, goodbye." That would make me feel incredibly bad for Sophia, given how much Jerry has loved her over these past couple of years. I understand she may not be old enough to be significantly affected, but still. As it stands now, we are 3.5 years into our relationship. For a year now, I have been unhappy about all the same issues. However, only in the past 3 months have I begun contemplating breaking up with him as a viable option. Yet it still feels as if it is not an option at all. I feel immensely stuck. However, I am not happy. Another aspect is that he is not cruel or unkind to me. He is not emotionally abusive, manipulative, or controlling. He does not treat me poorly, he simply does nothing. It has taken me this long and a lot of healing to recognize that not being abusive is not enough for a fulfilling relationship. My standards were set at an incredibly low bar entering this situation. However, I have now realized I need more than the bare minimum of not experiencing abuse to attain happiness. Who would have thought, right? Now concerning Carl. Our texting has fluctuated on and off for the past 6 months, but we interact only as friends. I rarely see him in person anymore. When I do, the unspoken connection remains, but we hardly see each other. One day, we engage in a deep text conversation in which he opens up to me about a woman he spoke to 2 years ago but never shared the details regarding. We were all aware that something had happened, but not how it ended. It was a messy situationship, primarily on her end. She ultimately returned to her ex. I explained that while she hurt him, I understand her viewpoint. They had built an entire life together, and the other man was a stepfather to her child. Leaving him for Carl would uproot everything. He acknowledges this and expresses appreciation for my perspective, noting that he had not previously considered things from her angle. I mentioned that I relate to it, feeling unhappy in many ways but feeling trapped due to our entire life being intertwined. I apologize for discussing this since he is also friends with Jerry. He replies, "No, I understand. I can tell he has not been putting effort into much recently, and how can anyone be fulfilled in such circumstances?" He casually mentions, "By the way, you know Andre, another employee at their job, is planning to pursue you if you and Jerry end up breaking up." We both laugh about this since Andre has no chance whatsoever. We jokingly exchange banter about how Andre needs to lower his standards due to his arrogant personality and inability to contribute anything. I reply, "Yes, I will never again take a risk with a man who has a history of inconsistency or laziness." Carl then states, "I cannot lie, I held the same mindset as Andre for a while. I was totally prepared to pursue you if the opportunity ever arose because I know I have my life together and would genuinely stand a chance. But then I realized that is not a cool thing to do." This statement causes my heart to race in both distressing and somewhat uplifting ways. Great, now all my suspicions are confirmed. This feeling is mutual. To clarify, he genuinely does have his life together. He ended a lengthy relationship a few years ago through a mutual split with no hard feelings. He had the situationship we discussed and a few dates, but he is quite content being single. He isn't chasing women or being promiscuous. He owns his home, earns excellent money with outstanding benefits as a general manager for a high-end restaurant, has investments, and possesses considerable savings. He frequently travels alone, and frankly, he has everything going well for him. While he may not be exceptionally attractive, he is not unattractive either. I do not focus solely on looks. For me, it is all about chemistry and personality. He genuinely seems to have it all in order. Since that day, around a month ago, we have not stopped texting until a few days ago. We have still never really flirted, never once through text, and only occasional humorous teasing behavior among friends when we meet in person. The connection remains tangible, and the chemistry is physically palpable in person, yet we never act upon it. However, I vowed not to communicate with him for a while because I want to eliminate even the possibility of crossing any boundaries until I have my life sorted out. He is not blocked or anything. I have simply not contacted him in 4 days. I notified him that I have a lot to manage and would not be responding for a while. As for the situation with Carl, let's say I were to break up with Jerry tomorrow, address my entire life with Sophia, and tackle the challenges of paying for things and childcare, etc. If Carl were to ask me out, I would respond similarly to how I spoke to Jerry years ago. However, I would remain firm in my explanation that life is too overwhelming for a relationship right now, rather than stating let's see where it goes. I would tell him to ask again when my life is stable and I have had some time to heal. It could take years, so I would advise him not to wait for me, but I would still like to maintain our friendship without anything more for now. Nevertheless, this has opened my eyes to the realization that I indeed do deserve better. The truth is that someone who has their life together, someone reliable and trustworthy, someone I know is a good person because I have been their friend for so long is capable of wanting me. I was initially infatuated with Jerry because I believed that no one would desire me unless they aimed to manipulate and control me as Robert did when he was not sober. I discarded all standards and completely overlooked every red flag and inconsistency because I knew he possessed too kind a heart to intentionally hurt me. That still holds true. He has a genuinely kind soul. Yet he is too, I do not know, stubborn, oblivious, lazy, depressed, and unwilling to seek help. I truly do not know what he is, but he is too whatever he is to recognize that he is indirectly causing me immense hurt by offering so little effort. A friend of mine even asked him if we were okay because I do not seem very happy, and he responded, "I do not know what you're talking about, everything is perfect." So here I am realizing that I could have so much more. Honestly, I would prefer to be alone at this point. However, Sophia complicates everything further. Plus, I genuinely do still love Jerry. I care for him as if he were my best friend, even though I am no longer in love with him. I love him regardless and do not wish to witness what would happen to him. I believe he would likely move back in with his mother and put no effort into improving his life or circumstances or pursuing a better job or moving forward in any capacity. He was not doing that before me or during our relationship unless I guided him through it. But I would still hate to contribute to him sinking deeper into whatever this darkness is. Additionally, we planned a concert 8 months ago, myself, Carl, and Jerry. Carl organized it and said, "I do not mind being the third wheel, you are my only friends who enjoy this band." The concert is approaching in 2 weeks, and I am extremely anxious about being around both of them simultaneously for 2 days. This was all planned before I recognized my feelings for Carl and before Jerry and I deteriorated this much. In summary, I simply feel overwhelmed from all sides. I do not know what I am asking except, how do I navigate from here?